Good afternoon and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Tuesday, February 21st, the year 2023. It is our Health Subcommittee, and it is roughly 1:30 p.m. Ms. Adams, if you could please call the roll.
Representative Hicks. Here. Representative Jernigan. Yep. Representative Leatherwood. Representative Martin. Here. Representative Mitchell. Here. Representative Sherrill. Representative Terry. Here. Representative Williams. Here. Chairman Hawk.
I am here.
You have a committee.
Chair,
you have a quorum.
We do have a committee and we have a quorum as well, so we've got both of those. Ladies and gentlemen, we do have a calendar today. We welcome everyone here today. Thank you very much. Do we have any announcements or personal orders from anyone on the committee? Chairman Williams, you're recognized.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I know your excellent staff has done a great job in preparation for the committee, but I just wanted to ask if somebody could please get G.A. Harway's picture off the back of my nameplate. That would be great. It's kind of hard to look at during the committee. Thank you, sir.
Chairman Williams, actually that's my old nameplate, and I'll be happy to swap mine out and put that picture on the back of mine if you would like. So, Representative Mitchell, you're recognized.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Does it talk though, Representative Williams? As long as it's not talking, it'll be okay.
I will not talk about the still small voice.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we do have a calendar before us, and we will start right off. Chairman Reagan, you are recognized. Item number 1 on our calendar is House Bill 1380. We have a motion and a second. You are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And members of the committee, I come before you with a mature minor clarification bill. However, in the process of getting the bill drafted and submitted for comments and considerations, 2 departments have come to me with some wording changes, the Department of Health and Department of Children's Services. I have agreed to accept their changes. That said, I want to make you aware, though, the purpose of this bill is to require parental consent for all vaccines given to minors. That would basically take the mature minor exception, which exists now in court or common law, and put it back the way it was before that doctrine existed. The impact basically will be to give parents back the right to make medical decisions for their children. With that, I'm going to ask that we go out of session to hear a witness that can't be here because I hadn't anticipated rolling this bill, but the witness has got schedule conflicts. Can we please do that, sir?
Thank you. And Chairman Reagan, I think as I learned from your comments right there, we are working on some amendatory language, so thank you very much for taking that into consideration. And we do have someone who would like to testify on the legislation who will not be available to speak next week. So at the request of the bill sponsor, we will go out of session. And we have a gentleman who would like to speak on the bill, Mr. Rolf Hazelhurst. We have Mr. Hazelhurst, if you could tell us who you are and who you're with and why you have interest in this piece of legislation. We are measuring 3 minutes, and you will have an opportunity to ask or have questions asked of you and respond as well that can go beyond the 3 minutes. So without objection, Mr. Hazelhurst, you are recognized.
Thank you. I'm Rolf Hazelhurst. I'm a senior staff attorney for Children's Health Defense. Much more importantly, I'm the parent of a vaccine-injured child. My son suffered severe and permanent brain damage as a result of a vaccine injury. The main point I want to make is that because of inaction by the Tennessee General Assembly and legal activism by the Tennessee Department of Health, Tennessee is leading the nation in pushing to allow children to consent and receive vaccinations without the parents' knowledge or consent. Last summer, for the Government Ops Committee, I sat and listened to the attorney for the Tennessee Department of Health give a dangerously oversimplistic explanation of the mature minor doctrine. Then the Tennessee Department of Health widely publicized that in its simplistic, dangerously oversimplistic misinterpretation to mean that children can be vaccinated in Tennessee when 14 or older without the parents' knowledge or consent. Now, I understand Dr. Fiskus has been fired, but the problem's not over. With Dr. Fiskus being fired, the problem's not over. Nationwide, people are still relying upon Tennessee's misinterpretation of the mature minor doctrine. I'll give you just one quick example. I, as the lead attorney for Children's Health Defense, challenged a law in Washington, D.C., where the District of Columbia was going to allow children 11 years old and older to consent to vaccination. Now, we took that law to federal court. We won. The federal judge agreed with us that the law violates the National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act, which unfortunately I know a lot more about than I wish I did. But the point I want to make is that the District of Columbia was, in their briefs, reply briefs, were relying upon the Tennessee Department of Health as legal authority that children can be vaccinated over 14 and in violation of the Vaccine Act. So at the end of the day, it is the General Assembly's obligation to clarify this, because right now, as it stands, the practical effect is children can go get vaccinated, and there's nothing the parents can do until you pass this law. So I ask you to support the Mature Minor Doctrine Clarification Act. I believe the House number is 1380. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hazelhurst. The argument that you mentioned where Tennessee was used as an example, was that lawsuit successful?
The defense used it,
Okay.
and the defense was not successful. The plaintiff's Children's Health Defense prevailed, and we prevailed in a motion for a preliminary injunction. In other words, the federal judge struck down the D.C. law before we ever went to trial. If that answers your question.
It does. Thank you very much. Any questions or comments for the speaker?
Thank you very much.
Seeing none, we thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back in session. Chairman Reagan, you're recognized, and I think the request was going to be for a roll.
Yes, sir. I'm going to request a roll for a week. That is to incorporate wording from the Department of Children's Services and the Department of Health. I think they have come to agree that the thing needs to change, but they want to put their own touch on it, and I've agreed to look at their wording and accept it if it's possible for me.
Okay. All right. Any objection? Seeing no objection, your bill is rolled. We roll House Bill 1380 for 1 week.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee.
Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are now on item number 2 on our calendar, House Bill 1051 by Chairman Vaughn. Chairman Vaughn finds himself in a very similar posture as Chairman Reagan did just a moment ago. I think that parties are working on this legislation, and the request from Chairman Vaughn, I don't see him in the audience, but the request from Chairman Vaughn has been to roll this bill 1 week without opposition. House Bill 1051 is rolled 1 week. We now are on item number 3 on our calendars. Item number 3 is House Bill 1429. If I could, as we bring the sponsor up for the legislation, I have a personal order myself. In the back of the room, we have a gentleman with several formers beside his name. We have former state representative, former state senator, former U.S. federal attorney and prosecutor. What are you now, Doug? You're Ladies and gentlemen, one of our former colleagues in the legislature, Douglas Overby, is with us. Everybody say hello to Doug. Very nice to see you. Now, Chairman Hicks, we're at item number 3 on our calendar, House Bill 1429. You are recognized. We have a motion and a second. You're recognized, Chairman Hicks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Committee, thank you as well. I've got an amendment with that drafting code 3501 that will make the bill.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a motion and a second on drafting code for amendment 3501. In order to get the bill in proper posture, I suggest we go ahead and adopt the amendment. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed, please say no. The ayes have it. Your amendment is on the bill. You are recognized on the bill as amended.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 1429, or Quinley's Law, provides more access to care by removing the requirement that a provider of home medical equipment services that has a principal place of business outside the state from having to maintain an office or place of business within the state of Tennessee in order to gain licensure. And then the second thing that it provides is oversight from the Health Facilities Commission. And I would like to give a little bit of more context about this bill, and this is probably not something that I would do in a normal bill to give this much context, but I think you'll understand here in just a second why I think it's appropriate that we do this. So the question, why is this bill needed? And I'm going to give you the best reasoning that I can show you, or that I can tell you about. I'm going to tell you the story of a baby named Quinley. Her journey began on September the 29th when she was admitted to Johnson City Medical Center with respiratory distress. Due to her inability to cough effectively, she progressed to respiratory failure and cardiac arrest, which required CPR. She fortunately improved with aggressive treatment. On October the 7th, she was extubated, and a cough assist device was used to prevent recurrence of her respiratory failure. Unfortunately, due to her underlying neuromuscular disorder, undiagnosed at the time, Quinley was unable to clear secretions from her lungs and worsened again, and was once again intubated. Her only other option at this time would be a chest physical therapy vest, but there was not a vest small enough to fit Quinley. She was unable to be separated from the ventilator, so Johnson City Medical Center decided to transfer her to Vanderbilt Children's Hospital for advanced respiratory support. So Quinley was transferred to Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's Pediatric Intensive Care Unit on October the 13th. The genetics team at Vanderbilt was able to diagnose her with SMARD, spinal muscular atrophy with respiratory distress. This is a rare neuromuscular disease which there is no cure, and treatment consists of respiratory support. She was extubated on October the 15th and again on October the 20th was re-intubated within 24 hours on both days due to a weak cough leading to inability to clear secretions from her lungs. On October the 25th, the decision was made to extubate her and try a Curis machine, which is essentially a modern-day iron lung machine that fits around her chest like a turtle shell and uses negative pressure to expand the chest and open up the airways. Quinley was able to be extubated at this time, and the Curis device proved to be very effective in clearing Quinley's lungs. With ongoing use of this device, Quinley was able to tolerate a reduction in her respiratory support to BiPAP at night only. This allowed her the freedom to enjoy the life a baby should during the day. The Curis device made this possible. At this point, it was determined by the doctors at Vanderbilt that Quinley could be discharged to go home with the Curis machine just in time for Christmas. Unfortunately, there was no DME company in the state of Tennessee that could provide a Curis machine for Quinley to do just that. The only manufacturer in the United States that provides a home Curis machine has an exclusive contract with a company in another state to distribute the Curis machine. This is due to the training of the respiratory therapist on such a unique piece of equipment. Unfortunately, the company did not have a license in the state of Tennessee and therefore could not provide this life-saving piece of equipment for Quinley. TennCare approved the device, and the company of the Curis stood ready once a solution could be found. Thankfully, a solution was found that gave the company of the Curis machine a license contingent upon them getting an office in the state of Tennessee within 30 days. So this bill simply gives Tennesseans access to care, life-saving care in the case of Quinley, by allowing medical equipment services to provide much-needed devices in a much more efficient and expedient manner while still maintaining the integrity of the licensure process. And now you may ask, well, why did you tell that story? And the reason I tell that story, and the reason I think it's appropriate and prudent, on Friday I received a phone call from Quinley's father. And unfortunately, baby Quinley passed away. And so without this machine, she would have not been able to enjoy the small amount of time that she had left. And so I'm proud to carry this legislation in her honor. And I also ask that we all remember the Shriner family as they lay her to rest tomorrow. And in finishing, I do ask for support of this piece of legislation. I stand ready to answer any questions.
Thank you, Chairman Hicks. We do have a couple of folks who have asked to speak on the legislation. Okay. Katie Thomas. Is Katie in the room? There's Katie. Oh, yes, Katie, forgive me. We will go out of session. Katie, you may not have been on this side before, but I understand that if you could just touch the little speaking mouth on the microphone there, and if you could tell us who you are, who you're with, and why you'd like to speak on the legislation, and again, we'll start the timer for 3 minutes. So, ma'am, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman and Committee. My name is Katie Thomas with the Health Facilities Commission. Can you hear me okay? First off, I want to thank Chairman Hicks for approaching us about this legislation and asking for our input. The Health Facilities Commission oversees the Board for Licensing Healthcare Facilities, and we license and regulate medical equipment providers. This was something that we had to go into an emergency board hearing about over the time it was happening, and we were happy to do that. But Chairman Hicks is right. This would simplify the process while maintaining the exact same survey requirements and survey procedures that are happening for in-state licensed facilities. We asked Chairman Hicks to include the language in the legislation that allows the board to promulgate rules so that we can ensure that these providers are being regulated the exact same way as current practice. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Thomas. Representative Mitchell, you're recognized.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So you guys don't have any type of like emergency procedure where you could give someone, say, a 30-day license, temporary license for a piece of equipment like this in an emergency situation until, your board can meet, or, because it's life or death, sounds like, in a lot of these cases. And, I just, maybe we need to pass legislation to give y'all that type of ability, because I think if Vanderbilt's saying that machine is needed and Vanderbilt used that machine, I mean, it would be prudent if medical professionals are suggesting that. So do y'all have anything like that?
Ms. Thomas, I'll recognize you and put the question there. What are your rules and regs concerning this?
Yes, sir. So absolutely. We are set up so that we can go into the emergency board hearings and approve situations like this for licensure. The issue was that the facility couldn't be licensed because they did not have an in-state physical address, which this legislation cleans up. So on the typical basis, if an in-state home medical equipment provider would like to provide services and isn't currently licensed but exists in the state, we could enter them into licensure.
Representative Mitchell, follow up.
But how long does it take for you to go into emergency session?
It all just depends on how easy it is for us to get a quorum. Right now we're meeting every other month, the board is. So typically it's just working out schedules, but if we can get all the board members to get a quorum, then we can go into an emergency board hearing.
Okay. I don't know. Don't know how far this caption opens up, but we may need to use his bill to do other things with it too, other than just this machine. I mean, it sounds like there could be other situations where, they don't need to, wait for to go into emergency session. Let's give somebody a 30-day ability to give life-saving equipment to someone, and then if we need to draw it back or something like that, then they can step in.
Thank you. Ms. Thomas, in this particular instance, how long did it take to convene the commission and make a decision on this on this situation?
It took about 2 weeks.
Okay. Chairman Jernigan, you're recognized.
Thank you. Just the way you read the bill, if it were to pass, the out-of-state business would have a license and still be under regulatory authority of Tennessee's rules and regs.
Yes, sir. So we would go into rulemaking to make sure that we can still have access to all the same records, policies, and procedures. Basically everything that we survey currently for in-state licensed providers.
And
Chairman Jernigan.
this would be only if the DME product is not being sold in Tennessee by any company.
So that was Chairman Hicks's first intent of the bill. However, we license a number of medical equipment providers that we wouldn't be able to really ensure that the product that they're selling isn't already provided in the state. It'd be near impossible to check that out.
So you're saying that a product that's already being sold in Tennessee, and someone could choose to go out of state and get that one for me in my world in durable medical equipment. And we talk about complex rehab, a chair since I'm sitting in. And someone from out of state could drop ship that in here. I purchase it, and then when it breaks down, I've got nowhere to go because they're not in state. Now, if it's not being sold here and there's no support here, I get it. I understand that. My concern would be a device that would come in and maybe save someone's life. And maybe it's long term. It's not short term. And a year later, it breaks down and there's no physical location to go to get it fixed. Is there support for that person and device? Is that something that you all would be able to oversee?
I'm not sure. I'd have to check into that with our Director of Licensure and Regulation and her team. But we do have, with this legislation, have the authority to promulgate rules. And within our rulemaking, that could be something that we could include.
Well, the reason we put it, I'm sorry.
Recognize.
The reason we put it in there in 2007 was because there were drop shipping from around the country, and then they would fold up shop. And then they're stuck with no one to go to, or where to go to. They weren't licensed in Tennessee, and the AG couldn't do anything but sue them, but then they're gone. And I think having a company in Tennessee is the reason why, is that the person, the end user, has some sort of support moving forward that for repair, or because you really get into quality of life issues, of activities of daily living, what they're going to do every day, or what these devices do. And they're somewhere in California and I've got no support and it breaks down, or they're not returning my phone calls. And that device is also offered in Tennessee. That's where I think the line is, for me, is getting blurred. That if it's not being offered anywhere else, I get it. God bless, get the device. And otherwise, I don't want to start undercutting Tennessee businesses that can provide the same product as from out of state. So that answers my question. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions for Ms. Thomas? Thank you very much. We have two other individuals on the list. We have Charles Satterfield and Michael Hanna. Mr. Satterfield, Mr. Hanna, if you could come up. There's a little button on your microphone in front of you. If you could pull it as close to you as possible without getting it in your face, just so we can hear you properly. And I'm assuming you all will say something fairly similar. So if one can be the spokesperson and one can speak, whichever's speak later on, whichever's the best. But gentlemen, you are both recognized.
Good afternoon, Chairman, to the committee. We thank you so much for the opportunity to come before you today. My name is Michael Hanna. I'm the compliance officer for Home Medical Equipment. We are a respiratory and DME company with locations throughout Tennessee. I'm joined by Mr. Charles Satterfield of Archer's Total Home Healthcare located in Sweetwater, Tennessee. We're here today representing our companies as well as DME suppliers across the state of Tennessee via the Association of Tennessee Home Oxygen and Medical Equipment Suppliers, and wish to share our concerns. As written, this bill could allow anyone to simply state their product is not available from a home medical equipment company in Tennessee, therefore exempting themselves from having a Tennessee location. If a company does not wish to operate a Tennessee location, there are many Tennessee licensed home medical equipment providers who would welcome the opportunity to provide new products and services. Enacted into law in 2000, Tennessee's home medical equipment licensure law regulates the provision of complex medical therapies as well as life-sustaining devices provided in a patient's home setting. These products and services require substantial knowledge, experience, and patient care initiatives. Our licensure law protects these patients and ensures Tennessee licensed providers are available 24 hours a day to offer support and care for them. The importance of this requirement in the law was shown during Medicare's expansion of the competitive bid program. This prevented out-of-state and even out-of-country suppliers from low bidding for Medicare contracts and then drop shipping equipment to elderly patients' doorsteps, leaving up to them to figure out how to put the equipment together and how to properly use it. There's a process for attaining emergency authorization through the Board for Licensing Healthcare Facilities. The board can grant a 30-day authorization to an out-of-state company to provide equipment to a patient pending either establishment of a location here in Tennessee or subcontracting with the Tennessee licensed home medical equipment provider who will assume the quality care and support of that patient, as well as any warranty and repairs on the equipment in question. Our members oppose this requirement within our home medical equipment licensure law. Passing this bill as written would make it very difficult for the board to inspect and enforce other licensure requirements if the company is out of state. At this time, we are opposed to the passage of House Bill 1429. We also graciously ask for a 2-week delay to allow members of our association to continue to work with the bill's sponsor and other proponents. Again, we appreciate the opportunity to stand before you today, and we'll be glad to answer any questions you might have.
Mr. Satterfield, do you have any response?
This particular situation, our preliminary review of the information appears as though we have a device that is manufactured abroad and based out of London, England, and that the device, the manufacturer owns a U.S. distributorship or U.S. distributor, and that company made the decision to have an exclusive with a home medical equipment company out of New York. That decision there, we feel like, is where the problem lies, that there should be a policy change with that distributor to allow everyone else to be able to or others to be able to provide this equipment versus changes to our law in Tennessee that protects so many more Tennesseans from problems with medical equipment, not having to want anybody there to take care of them when they need them. I personally am on call about 350 days a year. I am a pharmacist. I call myself a home care pharmacist because I take care of people in the home, and I do medical equipment. I think there's an opportunity here for us to do some things for home medical equipment, and would like to see this law or this bill be that opportunity. We are licensed by both the Healthcare Facilities Licensing Board and the Tennessee Board of Pharmacy. I currently have 3 licenses I have to have for the state of Tennessee. I have one for home medical equipment, I have one for as a wholesale distributor, and one for as an oxygen supplier. I pay $1,404 a year for the healthcare licensing law and $575 every 2 years for each of the other 2. I think there's an opportunity here for some changes to be made that will streamline this process, and I think there needs to be that opportunity for a emergency authorization and a waiver that can be patient-specific to be able to care for others while still protecting and giving companies some ability or some accountability to be able to either set up in Tennessee or become part or subcontract with someone, a licensed provider here, to take care of them. I got a call last night at 10 o'clock at night. The patient needed oxygen. And I'm sorry, it's hard to get people to come out of the bigger cities. I service rural southeast Tennessee, and we're there 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, trying to take care of people. And I think that care is important because you can't drop something at the curbside or on the front porch, and a lot of people can't get inside and know how to use it.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Chairman Williams, you're recognized.
Thank you, gentlemen, for coming. Could you please repeat for me where your current practice is for your DME companies?
I'm in Sweetwater, Tennessee.
Okay, Sweetwater.
Located in Monroe County.
Okay.
We're across the entire state, from Memphis all the way to Knoxville.
So you have a facility that, with the law change that you're suggesting that you didn't bring today, you're suggesting that you could change the law so that you could provide the services that Representative Hicks is trying to provide to the citizens of Hancock County?
We have members that could, yes.
Okay, so do any of your members of your association currently provide this system that's from Buffalo, New York?
No one in the state of Tennessee does because that distributor chose one company, one home medical equipment company
Right.
in the nation to be the only one to provide that service. That was their choice.
So
But
to get,
we have clinicians we have home medical equipment companies that employ clinicians that could learn how to do this and be able to provide that service.
Chairman Williams.
thank you. So your suggestion today is that Quinley's family in Hancock County should have to wait until you get a license, you get the ability to sell it, and you get the ability to train people so that her family can get the resources that they need. Is that correct?
No, sir, that is not correct. I am
Okay,
saying
I'm having a little bit of trouble understanding. If you could restate why you're here, I would appreciate it.
Okay, we are here to say that that law helps other patients significantly, that we need to have something streamlined so that time when we do or have a piece of equipment that needs to be supplied to a patient, that there is that ability to get that equipment to them. We have no doubt about that. I just saw about this situation yesterday morning, and I have a heart for that child just the same as you do and anyone else in this room. And I want to see something happen to help that child. But I also have a lot of people I take care of, elderly patients that need someone to step and be their voice and to help them during those times too, because they can't get out there and pick up a piece of equipment off the side of the road. We get calls to have to come because they've ordered it online, and we have to go out there and set up a seat lift chair or something heavy that they cannot do. And we have other companies that call us because they've sold that to somebody, and then that patient says, I can't get it inside, I can't put it together, I can't put the batteries in that scooter that I bought.
Chairman Williams.
Thank you, sir. I don't understand what a scooter has to do with this piece of equipment, and I don't understand what oxygen has to do with this piece of equipment, but I do know that as a father of 2 children, if my child needed something, I'd go to great lengths in order to get it for them. And I also do know that I would solicit the services of my state representative to help me get the solutions I need for my kid. Representative Hicks has done that as expeditiously as he could without calling a special session in order to do so. If you believe the law could be better improved by the way that we're doing it, apart from what Representative Hicks' bill says, then I suggest you contact your legislator or your association and make that suggestion. We would love to hear it. But as it relates to this subject matter and the urgency of this request, I don't think we ought to ask somebody to wait two weeks when they've been waiting 2, 3, 4 months for the kind of services that Representative Hicks is ready to provide. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Williams. Chairman Jernigan, you're recognized.
Well, I want to follow up on that. So when you say it's streamlined, right, and so you're trained in on this equipment, every time a Quinley's baby comes up in the future, it's immediate. There's no waiting at that point.
I didn't mean that, sir. I'm sorry if
Right.
you misunderstood what I was saying. I don't want to wait either.
Yeah,
I think there should be something in place where the medical director of the Department of Health can make that decision, that you don't have to follow a full board together possibly
Right.
to make the decision in that.
In regards to scooters and oxygen, this bill says home medical equipment. That's what it includes. It's in the bill. It's not specific just to one item. And like I said, if it's something that it's out of state that you can't get here, or it's impossible in this place, it's exclusive, I worry about, we provide the device, and then the Quinley baby, the device breaks down. There's no, where do they go? They can't go down the street to a place that has to have a business that's already there to fix it immediately. They'll have to wait from someone out of town, possibly week, 2, who knows. It's set up in the manner that there is support for the end user and the equipment, because when something is drop shipped online and it breaks down, a lot of places, God bless you for doing what you're doing, they won't even look at it because they didn't sell it to them, because they went that route. I just have further questions for Chairman when he gets back up here. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think Chairman Hicks, in his comments, made it clear that they were willing to set up, the company was willing to set up office space in Tennessee and go through all the proper channels that have been discussed. Representative Mitchell, let's wind this up. Representative Mitchell, you're recognized. Okay. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. Gentlemen, wait just 2 seconds. Chairman Terry, you're recognized.
Thank you. And this is a question. You talked about potentially bringing legislation or something along those lines, and the issue is with expediting care, and made something about emergency rules for, whether the commissioner might override and put something out there. And this is something for the chairman to think about. It's often we have different pieces of bills up here, and I call it the TINA. There is no alternative. In the event that this piece of equipment isn't sold here, nobody function on it. If the commissioner saw that there is no alternative, expedite, that may be something that to think about. That might help with the legislation. So, thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no further questions, comments, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you so much for your time today.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back in session. Chairman Hicks, you are recognized on the legislation, sir.
A couple of things to address, and I'll start with Representative Jernigan first. It actually takes care of that in the rules. The guardrails that we put in here, I mean, they would have, these other companies would have their license pulled at that point. So if you are that patient and that provider is not performing to your standard, first of all, they're probably going to lose their license because they're not supporting the patient. So that's, I hope that answers your question there and kind of where we were going. The main thing about this bill, and I don't want it to get lost in this, and because at first, the first thing I wanted to say when I got back up here was the gentleman said that he would like to continue dialogue. We've never started dialogue. I heard from one person out in West Tennessee, and I explained to him, he was a DME provider. I explained to him, and he said, I'll get back to you. And I've never heard anything else. I had a pharmacist up in Mountain City. He reached out to me. I explained to him, and he said, thank you. I appreciate that explanation. So I'm more than willing to work and work with you. But here's the thing. That doesn't change the fact that there's a problem right now that we have in Quinley's case. And let me bring another example. I filed this bill, and when I filed it, when the commission came in, we began to talk about this. The first thing she said to me was, I can't believe you're filing this bill. We just literally had another representative called us today and told us they're having the same issue with a device, not in Tennessee, somebody else provides it, another manufacturer, and said, we are glad you're bringing this legislation. And I'm like, well, all right, here's a problem. It's about access to health care, and this is a solution. I'm more than willing, if you want to work on something else after this, the gentleman that spoke, the two gentlemen, I'm more than willing to talk about it. But right now, there's a problem. Let's fix it, and then we can see what other issues they want to work on. We'll do that next time. But right now, I'd like to see this legislation move forward for those other families, like the Schreiner family, that's had to go through this.
Chairman Jernigan, you're recognized.
For a second, I was so enthralled by
Representative Mitchell, you're recognized.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And I just wanted the committee to understand, the machine he spoke of, Quinley's story, this is not a cure by any means. This is for palliative or hospice care. This is for your loved one, for an older loved one, to be able not to be incubated so they can speak to you in the last couple of weeks of life, so you can say those things and they can say those things to you in the last days of life. And for us to be able to take those moments away from a family is beyond me. So, I say we need to move this bill forward with expedition.
Chairman Terry, you're recognized.
Thank you, and appreciate you bringing this piece of legislation. So even if this bill passed, how much of a delay would there be for getting this piece of equipment to a patient?
Representative Hicks. Chairman Hicks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sorry about that. And I don't want to misspeak for the commission. I think they can tell you, but I can tell you. So you think about Quinley's 2 weeks. That's what it took for them to meet and finally do the emergency rules and allow the 30 days. And I'm going to be honest, I'm curious to see if Buffalo ever got a presence in our state, because Quinley, quite frankly, came home at Christmas, stayed just literally right after Christmas, and ended up having to go back to JCMC in Johnson City to the Children's Hospital. So I don't even know how that particular piece played out. But so I can't answer that. If they would like to come back and let you know, but I can tell you, I mean, it's going to expedite that, because now it's not waiting on them. It's not making sure that they've got that presence, because here's the thing, they've still got to fill out their paperwork, do their due diligence to make sure they satisfy the requirements that have been put in here for the oversight. And so that enough is unfortunately going to slow the process down, but I understand that. So, I mean, I would think how long it would take for them to submit everything that the commission needs, and then hopefully we move forward. And hopefully that doesn't take, 2 weeks, because again, in the case that, of the Schreiner family, they didn't have time. They didn't have the time. And so I don't know if that answers your question, and the commission may want to speak to that, but that's as good a answer as I can give.
Thank you. And I do want to impress upon people that patients in this type of condition, even that delay can worsen things. And you're saying we're still going to have a process, and I still think we're going to have to expedite that process even more. So I'm with you on this. Maybe we can work to improve that even more, but I'm with you on this.
Thank you. Chairman Jernigan, your thoughts come back?
I remember, yeah, they're back.
You're recognized.
They're back. So I just lost my train of thought now. When we're talking about, oh yeah, I remember. So, when she said the bill as amended, that it's not just products that are not provided in Tennessee, it's all DME. Is that correct?
Chairman Hicks.
Chairman, when I originally filed, if you go back and look at the original bill that was filed, that's in my thinking was, okay, here's a problem, let's come up with a solution. And that was, my solution was, if it's not offered in the state of Tennessee.
Right.
But here's what that does, unfortunately, Representative Jernigan, is it just adds more time. Because, first of all, I'm not sure how they're going to accomplish that, to know what devices are being offered. That's more time, more delay. And again, we're talking about, the most, for the most part, in this case, you're talking about a serious illness. Time is of the essence here. And so that would I would be real careful of doing anything that's going to delay the process. And that's why, after talking with the commission, that I actually removed that with the amendment, because it just delayed more time for this particular case. I don't know, and the gentleman that spoke, that this is this is what they do. I don't know how much, my aim has been towards these devices that are life-saving and that aren't offered to citizens. So I was looking at access to care, because, back up in Northeast Tennessee, in the rural community, those folks deserve access to care, just like everybody else, Tennesseans do. And so that's why we ended up, when the commission said, hey, it would be easier to take that part out, because we're not sure how we would do it. And so I took it out, because, again, I'm looking to try to solve a problem, and that's all I was trying to do.
I understand, and it's admirable what you're trying to do. You're using a scalpel in a really tight situation that I 1,000% agree with. But then the language says home medical equipment services. That's everything.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where, I guess this is the unintended consequences of using, a mallet instead of a scalpel like you would want to use. I would love to go back to your original language of, if it's not provided here, let's get it here as soon as possible. But I understand what we're trying to do, and I'm sure it's going to pass out in flying colors. But I just, there are other products, and there are other companies out there that may not be as honest and forthright as when it comes just something down as little as, a simple wheelchair you see in the hospital, or oxygen, or something that's everyday use, and that we're undercutting Tennessee businesses because they're being drop shipped from everywhere. All right.
Chairman Hicks.
In that particular case, Representative Jernigan, that would be declared deficient practice, and so their license would be revoked at that point if it wasn't out of state. And so at that point, I mean, they would get another provider. And, you know, hopefully if it's somebody in the state of Tennessee, I hope they go to the provider in Tennessee. I mean, that's what I'm hoping for. But that's how that would fall.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions, comments? I think we're ready to vote. All those in favor of sending House Bill 1429 to full Health Committee, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say no. If you vote no, please let Ms. Adams know your vote. Your bill passes.
Thank you, Chairman and Committee.
Thank you, Chairman Hicks. This bill will go to Health Full Committee. Forgive me if I misspoke. House Bill 1429 passes to full Health Committee. We are now on item number 4 on our calendar, House Bill 653 by Representative Fritz. The request has come from the sponsor of the legislation to roll this bill for 2 weeks. Without objection, House Bill 653 is rolled 2 weeks. We are now on item number 5 on our calendars, House Bill 305 by Representative Jones of Davidson. Representative Jones, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
We have a motion. We have a second. You are recognized.
Thank you. I've met with many members of this committee, but some concerns were brought up that I want to meet with the department about, and so I just want to roll this bill a week if that's okay.
Thank you. And the request has been to roll this bill. And I will, and thank you for coming to the office today, and I was glad to be able to find you in your office today as well. And I just want to put a comment out there as we're working on language. And I understand where we're coming from. We're looking to interject the language, a person with a mental health condition, for current language that says a mental defective. And I understand exactly where we're coming from. I just want to make sure that those terms are interchangeable and that they work, because I'm thinking we all have a mental health condition, but we may not all have some type of a mental defect. And I want to make sure that we're on the same page. So I think you're heading in a good direction, Representative Jones, and we want to work with you on that. Okay. You're recognized for any more comments.
I just would like to roll it a week, but thank you so much.
Okay, the request has been to roll 1 week. House Bill 305 rolled 1 week.
Thank you.
All right, we are now ready for item number 6 on our calendar. And the representative flew the coop, or is he going to the podium? Where? The motion has been to roll House Bill 1195 to the heel of the calendar with that two spots. We're rolling that bill 2 spots without objection. We are now on item number 7 on our calendar, House Bill 495 by Representative Martin. Representative Martin, you are recognized. We have a motion.
Second.
We have a second.
Thank you, sir. I do have an amendment on the bill.
We do have an amendment coded 3861. We have a motion. We have a second on amendment number 1 coded 3861. We'll get that on the bill to have full discussion. All those in favor of placing that amendment on the bill, please signify by saying aye. 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 Any opposed, please say no. The ayes have it. The amendment is on the bill. Representative Martin, please explain your bill as now amended.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. The amendment itself actually just adds it into Title 68 instead of 63, which is adding in osteopaths as well as medical doctors into this. The bill itself, House Bill 495, is the Topical Medical Waste Act of 2023. So currently, if a ophthalmologist is performing cataract surgery, they might use some ointment, small little bottle on the patient. Currently, the way statute reads, they are not necessarily allowed to take that home. The patient isn't. So they will have to end up throwing that away. The patient then will be prescribed that from the ophthalmologist, and the patient then has to leave the hospital and go get the ointment. So this just clarifies that, allows the doctor to give the patient whatever is left over of the ointment, cream, etc., to streamline that process, cut down on medical waste, and then also decrease that barrier for the patient. I am
Thank-
open for questions.
Thank you for your movement toward efficiency, Representative Martin. Any questions or comments on the legislation?
Question on the bill.
Questions been called. Are you ready to vote? All those in favor of sending House Bill 495 to full Health Committee, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed, please say no. The ayes have it. Your bill moves forward to full Health Committee. Thank you. We are now on item number 8 on our calendar, House Bill 575 by Representative Himmer. Representative Himmer, you are recognized. We have a motion? We have a motion. We have a second. You are recognized. I think we may be working on some amendments. Representative Himmer, tell us the amendment code number that you're looking at.
I believe on the last right side hand, it's 004139.
All right, that's the amendment that I have and committee has as well. We have a motion and a second. Amendment 4139. This addressed many of the concerns that we had last week's meeting. All those in favor of placing amendment coded 4139 on the legislation, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed, please say no. The ayes have it. We are on your bill as amended for you to explain. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Again, House Bill 575 requires the board medical examiners to consider, including a course for practitioners on maternal mental health. Last week, we put on amendment after discussion with the TMA to add the Board of Osteopathic Medical Examiners as well. And today we just put forth another amendment based on the committee's feedback last week to change must to shall consider some of the various subject matters. And this bill is needed, and we're doing it on behalf, based on the Tennessee Department of Health did a maternal mortality review committee each year. Their report in 2022 said facilities shall increase education on perinatal mental health to patients and providers. So this is been an issue that's near and dear to a lot of people's hearts. And so this is a permissive bill, just putting forth these maternal mental health items that can be included in for the continuing education. Again, it's permissive. It's allowing just a menu of education services for these providers, and thank the committee for their consideration.
Thank you, Representative Himmer. Any questions or comments on the legislation? Seeing none, are you ready to vote? All those in favor of passage of House Bill 575 to full Health Committee, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed, please say no. Any noes, please let the Secretary know your vote. Your bill passes in affirmative vote. House Bill 575 goes to full committee.
Thank you, members of the committee.
Thank you. I think I used a few more words there than I should have in explaining the direction of that bill. Thank you for your indulgence. We are back at item number 6 now, which had been rolled 2 places for the photographically impressive Chairman Williams. Chairman Williams, you are recognized on House Bill 1195. We have a motion and a second. You're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman and members. I apologize. I still have not been able to get the omniscience thing down yet. But I do have, before I get started, if you don't mind, a little personal privilege. We have with us Gretchen Jackson. She practices physical therapy in Brentwood, specializes in geriatric patients. So we're thankful to have her here today. And as this subject matter of this bill does have to do with physical therapy, so wanted to congratulate her on being here. So if you'd make her welcome, that'd be great. Thank you, Chairman and members. House Bill 1195 is simply a little housekeeping as it relates to physical therapy and operations as it relates to their current practice. Currently, nurse practitioners and physicians assistants have been ordering under the guidance of physicians as it relates to ordering care. This bill just clarifies the current practice that they're currently doing, and it also states that the doctoral degrees are the norm. In discussion with them earlier today, we only have doctoral licensure as it relates to that, so these people are more than qualified to make referrals. In addition to the training, the one-time training language is no longer necessary because of the way we train our physical therapists here, and so that just struck the language as it relates to training. With any questions, I'm be happy to answer those.
Thank you. You've heard the explanation. Any questions or comments for the sponsor? Seeing none, you ready to vote? All those in favor of sending House Bill 1195 to full Health Committee, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed, please say no. The ayes have it. Your bill moves forward. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are working through our calendar. We are now on item number 9. Item number 9 on the calendar is House Bill 172 by Representative Chisholm. We have a motion. We have a second. Representative Chisholm, you are recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. I have brought to you all what I feel is the New Deal of bills. So, I brought to you House Bill 172, which is the Medical Cannabis Act. And what this bill does, it legalizes medical cannabis for our medical patients. So, 41 states and the District of Columbia have already legalized some form of medical cannabis. And Tennessee is one of the only states that have not legalized any form of medical cannabis. And it's been shown that there are medical conditions that medical marijuana does help alleviate symptoms for, which entails Alzheimer's, ALS, HIV, Crohn's disease, epilepsy, glaucoma, multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's disease, chronic pain, severe nausea, and sickle cell. The state of Louisiana, they've recently passed a medical marijuana program. And so I'll go here. There's been an argument that marijuana is a gateway drug. But that hypothesis has been debunked. The DEA even took it off their website. So now only 19 states still criminalize for marijuana. So to get back to Tennessee, in 2019, the state of Tennessee arrested 17,596 people for marijuana, while only 39% of rape kits were cleared, and only 27% of property crimes were cleared. So this would even help law enforcement free their hands so that we can focus on serious crimes. But back to our patients. We have so many patients in the state of Tennessee who have to go to other states to have medical freedom, to have medical choice. With that, I stand by for questions, and I stand by.
Thank you. We do have some individuals who would like to speak on the legislation. Jan Byer, go ahead. Representative Chisholm, you're recognized.
Well, before we go into the weeds,
it's also called recess.
Yeah, I'm gonna do us all the favor and take it off notice while we have more robust conversation about the subject matter.
Okay. All right. We're talking about the weeds and the weed connotation that you've got there, Representative Chisholm. The request has been to take this bill off notice. Any opposition? Seeing no objection, your bill is off notice. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe we have worked our way efficiently through the calendar today. Ladies and gentlemen, we have had an individual who has traveled a long way to speak on that particular bill. As we've done earlier today, because we had a gentleman who could not be here, there is an individual who would like to speak on House Bill 172. I'm going to use chairman's discretion, and I'm going to bring Jan Byer up. And I know Jan is about 4 hours away from the Capitol, and since we have precedent of allowing this on a prior bill, I'm going to allow Ms. Byer to discuss what's on her mind. Ms. Byer, if you'll please come up. We are out of session. Ms. Byer, we have We have a committee rule, 3 minutes to give your testimony. If you could tell us who you are and who you're with and your thoughts on the particular issue. We will have a few moments for conversation back and forth, but not too many as we're winding up the committee. Ms. Byer, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for allowing me to be considerate of my time. I do appreciate that. Okay, my name is Jan Byer. Before moving to Tennessee in 2019, I worked for the Colorado Marijuana Enforcement Division for almost 5 years as a compliance investigator. My main responsibility was to vet persons wanting to work in the industry, possibly owners of businesses and the businesses themselves. Eventually, I was assigned to do extensive background checks, which included the finances on out-of-state investors. I lived in Colorado pre-marijuana commercial legalization and post-legalization. I saw the difference it made to a once beautiful state. The population dramatically increased with people wanting to be involved in the industry, flying into Denver International Airport and showing up at the Med with luggage in hand wanting to get a license. I saw all of the behind-the-scenes regulation, the processes of growing, selling, the increase in the black market, increase of adolescents and juvenile use, emergency room visits up, poison control up, suicides up, drug driving and accidents up. This was all hidden from the general public, but I saw it from behind the scenes. Amendment 64 was voted on by the citizens of Colorado, 53% in favor. During my tenure at the Med, I would get calls from citizens saying they voted for marijuana because they thought it would be beneficial, but now realize that it is out of control and has done more harm than good, and they wanted to know how it could be stopped. I could only tell them at that time, you can't put that genie back in the bottle. The architect of Amendment 64 came out and spoke on camera to a lady named Aubrey Adams of Every Brain Matters, whose son has been afflicted with psychosis and is still to this day having issues because of marijuana, saying that he regrets even writing the bill because it has not turned out the way it was supposed to. He currently has been the architect has currently been diagnosed with CUD, cannabis use disorder. Cannabis is the family which includes hemp and marijuana. There are two main compounds, or cannabinoids, as well as hundreds of others we know nothing about. CBD stands for cannabinoid and is the second most common cannabinoid in the cannabis plant. It is not so psychoactive by itself, but delta-8 THC can be created chemically from CBD and is psychoactive. THC stands for delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol and is the most common cannabinoid in the cannabis plant. It is psychoactive, meaning it affects your mind, thus giving the users that high feeling. Marijuana is a variety of cannabis that contains greater than 0.3% THC and is used to make the drug. Hemp is a variety of cannabis that contains less than 0.3% THC and is used to make paint, rope, and paper. THC is the most dangerous cannabinoid when taken in high dosages. Colorado has marijuana and edibles as high as 90% THC. The effects of legalization, even when it was just medical, the usage rate of juvenile use dramatically increased. Juvenile and adolescent marijuana dramatically increased. THC affects the brain and has been shown to have a 10% decrease in intelligence levels, affecting learning in school. The adolescent brain is not fully formed until at least the age of 25. The younger the juvenile, the more likely they will eventually be diagnosed with CUD, cannabis use disorder, CIS, cannabis-induced schizophrenia, and the likelihood of suicide is increased with regular usage.
Thank you, Ms. Byer. If you could finish up, just a few more seconds.
Okay. One thing I wanted to just real quick bring up, the Medical Marijuana Commission was created in 2022, and in Tennessee Code 68-7-102, this legislator passed the Medical Cannabis Commission, which says, there is created the Medical Cannabis Commission. The commission shall serve as a resource for the study of federal and state laws regarding medical cannabis and the preparation of legislation to establish an effective patient-focused medical cannabis program in the state upon the rescheduling or descheduling of marijuana from Schedule I of the Federal Controlled Substances. B, this chapter does not authorize a medical cannabis program to operate in the state, and licenses for such a program shall not be issued or authorized to be issued until marijuana is removed from the Schedule I of the Federal Controlled Substances Act.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for the speaker? Ms. Byer, thank you very much. I appreciate you coming a long way to speak, and forgive me for the pause that we took before your testimony began. I wasn't quite sure where the sponsor legislation was going to go, so I was a bit surprised when you took it off notice. So,
Can I make one comment real quick?
well, let me ask you a question.
Yes.
Would you like to make one more comment?
Yes, please. Yes, please, sir.
Please, and our time is short.
Okay. I am, I feel for the people who have medical issues. I myself have diabetes for the last 30 years. I'm on an insulin pump and use a lot of insulin and have had neuropathy in my feet. I found holistic, natural, called scalar waves. And they are now coming out. In fact, there will be a center here in Nashville probably within the next 3 months. It's very cheap and inexpensive, and it cures without doing any damage. It's the Nikola Tesla scalar wave technology, and is now coming out. It is readily available. So personally, I would rather use that than marijuana, which affects my brain.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, seeing no more questions, comments, we are going back into session. Nothing more to happen before the committee. We are adjourned.